and
Yep.
they're going to take Bo Nix at number 1.
Hey, everybody! It's time for another wonderful edition of the Jersey Tales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
Well, we got Bunts here.
Howdy, howdy.
Jason's here.
Evening.
Jingles is here.
What's up?
Gone Fright is here. Yep. Pronoun she, her. Hi.
Lexi's here.
Hey, yo.
Silox is here.
Hey, what's up?
Velvet made it.
Hello. Barely.
And it's me, Aquino. Welcome everyone to the Jersey Tales show. Okay, so we have some exciting things to talk about and some not exciting things to talk about.
I think Seawolf isn't here.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Probably a good thing because I'm sure there'll be a lot of bragging for a good
Oh,
half of the show. I would assume.
It'd be a bit.
I didn't really pay attention to that entire game until I knew what was going on because Seawolf.
Oh no, we were all
yeah.
watching it together.
It's a
So I guess
So,
we'll start with
the
Cleveland. versus
Cleveland
Texans.
Steamers.
Well, much like his helmet, Joe Flacco turned into a pumpkin.
I-
It happens. CJ Stroud is really scary. I don't want to face him next time in the AFC South again. It's not going to be very fun. Suddenly, when my
Yeah.
team gets good in the AFC South, everyone in the AFC South gets good. This is not fair, etc., etc. But good for him. He's actually playing real fucking well. We'll have to see if he's going against. Is he going to be going against Kansas City next week?
He'll be going against the Ravens, if I recall correctly.
Ooh, that'll be
Yeah.
good.
That's gonna be an interesting matchup. I will
I'm
say
excited.
here.
I am excited for that matchup.
I will say when it comes to the Texans and the Browns game, to give credit where credit is due, considering the situation the Browns was in general, the fact that they have made it should be taken note of how well that they've been coached. It's just unfortunate that a lot of people probably underestimate how good of a quarterback Stroud is because he's already playing all right, you can already plop him in the top 10 in the NFL right now because he's just playing out of his mind.
Joe Burrow's big debut year, when he wasn't all hurt and banged up and in the gutter. You know, that was the year where they didn't know any better. Oh, the Bengals aren't supposed to win a playoff game? That's what the rule is? We didn't know any better. And then we go to the Super Bowl accidentally. Sorry, guys. In comes in the playoff game. And because they rested everybody, I don't know if it's because they're rusty or their schemes are just too predictable. And CJ Stroud's on one hand, amazing. But CJ Stroud isn't on the defense and didn't shut them down for basically 3 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
That's not on the quarterback play. I'm excited to see what he does against the Ravens because Ravens will beat the crap out of your QB if they can get their hands on him. Now, that's
so were the Browns supposed to do. The Browns' defense is good, but they.
Yeah. No. I mean that's a good point. But the Ravens always seemed like they were just a little bit better. Now, granted, the one game that Cincinnati played them, it was one of the opening games and it was in the rain. So, Joe couldn't throw, Joe couldn't move, and then our running game sucked. That's all we had.
So I first off, props where props are due. Congrats to the Texans. I don't think anyone saw that. Maybe Texans fans, predicted it, but the vast majority of America, including the pundits, didn't predict this. I think this
Correct.
is seeing CJ Stroud come into his own this quickly it's amazing. He was always viewed as sort of the number 2 to Bryce Young. Everybody thought Bryce Young, was going to be the surefire, the best one out of this draft. And of course, that remains to be seen. I think, and this is a hot take, I think when it's all said and done, CJ Stroud will be the best quarterback from that draft.
I mean, I think people are already saying that, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Well,
I think
I would say this. I think, and I don't want to go off topic too much, but I think I want to see what happens when you surround weapons with Bryce Young. I think it's too early.
That's
the same
fair.
thing with Justin Fields. I think it's too early to write them off. But real quickly for the Browns, it's tough to see because they have a really, really, really good team. And this offseason, I want to see what happens because there's a thought that Joe Flacco may not be done. And there's a prevailing theory out there that says Flacco may try and run it back. And that may be cause for a quarterback controversy.
if it actually ends up being a legitimate quarterback competition, that might come into concerns because if he ends up losing that job, what the hell are you going to do with a Deshaun Watson that you still have to pay like 100 and some guaranteed money in the next like 3 or 4 years and try to get off of that?
The Texans just absolutely slaughtered the Browns. The thing that we've got on our list here, where the chef's special was fish on ice because of the Dolphins and the Chiefs.
And playing in that sort of weather is never good for anyone. So
Yeah,
they, at the very least, weren't at least embarrassed. But the thing is that like we've seen time and time again, when defenses figure out McDaniel's offense, they kind of start to become more one-dimensional.
The issue
So-
I've got with McDaniel's is like the way that McDaniel's calls plays and runs plays. Like it's a perfect example between like old guard, new guard. It's very Madden-y, like the way that he just, you know what, just go for it. Like this doesn't make sense. This isn't how the book says you're supposed to do this. So we're just going to do this because it's different and it's crazy and it's this high percentage play. Like everything that he's doing in that, like they were running the ball. It was like against the Bills just prior. They had control of that game and then they started passing for no reason. They had already controlled the game.
run the clock out when you have a good, decent lead.
This game took place in Miami. Miami would have won.
So this is 2 points. One, Miami's a finesse team, plain and simple. They look good against the bad teams. They're flashy, rah, rah, rah. But when it comes down to playoff time, what happens? They look inept. There's they don't have a defense built for the playoffs. There's no running game. I'm sorry, Raheem Mostert, good player. Achan, nice player. You're not winning games with them. When it comes, you're not winning playoff games with them. You're not. The Miami has great receivers. I like Tyreek Hill. I think he's great. You're not winning playoff games with Tyreek Hill in Miami.
Dolphins are built to play from behind.
Oh, I was just saying they aren't. And this is a hot take, and I'll own it. I don't think Tua will ever win a Super Bowl. Tua lacks that killer instinct and that leadership that Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning had. Like, I don't see it when I watch him play. I see a very good quarterback, but not someone I can see lead a team to a Super Bowl and win it. He's the type of quarterback I think that you need to surround him with a lot of talent to cover up the flaws that he has. I think Tua has a much better skill set than a game manager. Brock Purdy is a game manager. Tua is better than Brock Purdy.
The multiple concussions, I think, was better. I
Fair.
think he still hasn't I think he's got serious damage. And I mean, I'm not a medical professional, but he has not been right ever since those back-to-back concussions. And that post all of that has been, it hasn't been as sharp. Is really what I like. There was some weird, clear, granted, this one particular, it was in the fourth worst conditions to play football in that we've ever had a playoff game for. Like, I get that. But, I mean, I literally just watched him play against the Bills the previous week, or his previous game, and, like, it was the same. It was the exact same when he was supposed to be making these big decisions to this comeback stuff. There were just bad throws, bad decisions, holding on to the ball too long, not spiking it down just to get it out of your hands. I mean, that's the kind of thing that separates it. Like, I completely agree with you. The difference between Tom Brady calling the plays, if you watch Tom Brady, if something goes wrong and he sees a defender that's gotten through his guys, it's going to the floor. Don't worry, I got 3 more downs. I can try again. A lot of those guys, they'll just hold it, and it's like deer in the headlights kind of thing. And Tua's got it really bad now.
They have to really tread water because if he gets hit like that again, then they're gonna have to take considerations of possibly either moving on from him, or he has to make the decision like, you know what, I don't want to end up dying on the field, and I'm just gonna go ahead and call it good.
Because they kept playing him, and like the dude was on the plane and had no idea where he was at. It was bad.
They would be foolish to extend Tua. He's not the answer in Miami. Again, unless you're gonna surround him with you're surrounding him with a lot of talent, and B, you build a roster that can compete with the likes of Buffalo, Baltimore, and I guess Houston and whoever else. Oh, the Chiefs in the playoffs. There's no reason to run it back with Tua next year. You can get a
Well,
much better player in the draft
Agreed.
or in free agency.
Who would you bring in?
Who would I bring? Well, I don't know
Joe
who's in the draft
Flacco.
next year, but in terms of free agent quarterbacks next year, I don't know who's available. I'd have to look.
the only
But
player that is like worth signing at this moment is Kirk Cousins. And
But he's going to be out half of the season next year with that torn Achilles.
Mhm.
yeah,
Tua has 1 year left on his contract that's a value at $23 million, with the dead cap at $23 million.
I think the Chiefs have some real issues.
Go for a play for T. Higgins this offseason.
There's
would
a
be
lot.
interesting.
There's a lot of teams that are salivating
Oh,
over T.
They
Because
like
because I mean, anywhere else he would be a number one wide receiver.
I mean, what can I say about Mahomes? He gets it done. It's a shame because that is a very good Chiefs defense, and if they had a much better wide receiving core, they would be the favorite to win it all. Oh, excuse me, their best target is someone dating Taylor Swift, and
Yeah.
even that's
I
pushing it. Rasheed Rice is probably the best target on that team, and that's not saying much.
mhm.
No
like
disrespect to him.
in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up being Ravens Chiefs for the AFC Championship game. But you are right that like it would have been a much more exciting matchup if that was the case. If the Kansas City wide receiver core was decent, at least they're not even decent right now. Like, all of the AFC teams right now that are in are beatable outside of the Ravens, which we'll have to see how well they play next week against the Texans.
I think this is not the Chiefs team that we've seen in past years. They don't. I mean, it's not the one that has Tyreek Hill on it. It's certainly not the one they won the Super Bowl with last year. This is a Chiefs team that is really starting to regress.
This team reminds me of those mid 2000s Patriots teams where you had a great quarterback and excellent defense, and there was no names at the wide receiver position. And what happened the following year,
Yep.
in 2007? They went out and they got Randy Moss, went undefeated. I'm not
Yep.
saying they're going to go out and get, the best wide receiver in the NFL, but if they want to contend going forward, especially since Kelsey is going to be retiring either this year or in the near future, they need to go out and get a true number one wide receiver.
It's like a road playoff game is completely different from a home playoff game, especially when it comes to going to Buffalo and how insane that fan base is as a whole. Yeah, it's gonna be a rough time. Like they're not gonna go easy on Mahomie and his boys. So
All right, so into the I assume everyone's heard the term jerry cans. So we have the jerry cans versus the Packers.
Yep.
A wise man once said, they are who we thought they were, and we let them
Yeah.
off the hook.
That game is that the final score does not reflect how bad that game was.
all.
That game
at
was over at
all.
halftime.
Hall of Fame stat patter right there.
We got another one, boys. We have to deal with in Green Bay. Like
I know.
it seems like never ending.
That magical bag that they just pull quarterbacks out of. Oh
Yeah.
man, we just lost a Hall of Famer. What do we have in here? Oh look, it's a Hall of Famer.
Their defense also played terribly. Micah Parsons didn't do anything that whole game. He was not doing good and yet also Dak getting picked off twice against a Joe Barry defense. What's going on? It's a home game. This is not even at Lambeau Field.
And speaking of Jordan Love now has the highest passer rating for a game in Packer history.
Like I'm convinced that the Packers just have like a secret cloning facility. Now, I mean from like, what we're seeing with Rodgers, it's what happens when you clone the same DNA too many times and like you start to have like the weirdness that just shows up later on in life. That's what you're getting with Rodgers.
Will Rodgers fulfill the prophecy and go from the Jets to the Vikings? That is the question.
I think it's crazy now that the Packers have lucked into all these quarterbacks from Favre to now Rodgers to, I'm going to say it, Love. Mark my words. I think he is going to be, in a couple of years, a top 5 quarterback.
I could see him easily winning a MVP in the near future.
They used to, draft a quarterback, let them sit under the starter, and when it was time, they took over. The problem is the NFL has become, what have you done for me lately? And so
Yep.
all these GMs are scared of losing their jobs, so they're, starting quarterbacks who clearly should not be starting. And there are
Pittsburgh.
recent examples of There you go. That's another one. Oh, you don't want my opinion on that.
Wait, for who?
Pickett. an example of a quarterback who should have never been picked that high or be starting in the NFL, but that's a discussion for
Yeah.
later.
Like Bryce Young and other people like that think
Yeah.
that there's just going to be fully formed, and it's just like that's not how progression works.
Let's take the flip side of this game and talk about the wrong way to run a franchise and talk about the Cowboys. I think that they were fine. And then what happened was Jerry does Jerry things between the end of the regular season and the playoffs that freaks everyone out and makes everyone scared to death they're going to lose their jobs. And then everybody throws the baby out with the bathwater, and they
Absolutely.
all panic.
Nothing to do with playing the Packers. I think if they played another team, they would have won.
I mean,
Yeah,
obviously it was something because they're over here. Dak Prescott's over here throwing interceptions left and right. I mean,
He was
Oh,
spooked.
yeah.
He looked scared. I think Aquino's right. Like it looked like he was scared of
Yeah.
something.
He definitely knows when to let people go, but the problem is if you're the primary reason why you're having to fire your friends is because you fuck. He's the one screwing up stuff because he wants the credit. He still can't get over the fact that Jimmy John came in and won a freaking Super Bowl.
Exactly.
I mean, like, he just now got to the point where he's willing to introduce him into the inner circle and now have to share credit for that Super Bowl. The whole reason why that guy was fired was because he didn't want to share credit for the Super Bowl.
I don't think the Cowboys are a badly run franchise. There are two things holding this team back.
Go ahead.
It's coach and it's GM. Mike McCarthy is a rich man's Adam Gase in the sense that he is
Oh my
only
gosh.
getting head coaching gigs because of Aaron Rodgers. He won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. But let's be honest, it was not because of Mike McCarthy. It was largely because of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Mike McCarthy is a bad coach, but I don't think he's the kind of coach that gets you to a Super Bowl. If the Cowboys want to win before Jerry keels over and dies inevitably, he needs to relinquish control and get an actual legitimate GM in there. Otherwise, this is going to be a thing going forward. And real quickly with Dak Prescott, I'm sorry, I cannot believe people thought Dak Prescott was an MVP candidate. We did the same thing we did with Brock Purdy. We got in love with those sexy and flashy looking numbers. We didn't look at the substance of who they were beating, and we fell in love. And look what happened. You got
Yeah.
burnt.
So real
So-
quick, like when you were talking about, like, okay, well, you got to bring in an actual GM and you got to bring in a good head coach. Oh man, like if this is the WWE that we were talking about, it'd be like, what's that music? And like, oh, it's Bill Belichick coming in.
Oh,
It would be
So-
so funny if he went in there and like threw a Microsoft Surface at Jerry Jones. That would be the funniest thing
Yeah.
ever.
Like first off, I want the hard knocks of like Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick
Oh my
having
god.
to work together.
I don't
because
think
it
we
is going
ever do that.
Oh,
They'd kill
never
each other. They would kill each other.
again,
Hold on.
highest rated, like Amazon Prime. You want the next like superstar streaming program thing? That is your program. Like Jerry Jones trying to screw around, like it's like the old like Hanna-Barbera races, you know, where where Mr. Snidely is going to sit there with like the snickering dog and derail everything that's going on that Bill Belichick's trying to put together. But then at the same time, Bill Belichick is just going to be like, no, it doesn't work that way. And like to completely derail everything that they're trying to do to screw him up.
someone
Oh,
would have to be at the bottom of that
Uh,
relationship, and their
That-
egos
no,
will not
yeah.
allow that.
Yeah, because like my heart wants it to happen so bad, but my brain already knows it's not gonna happen because like
It's the chaos option. It's the funniest option, and we all want it to happen.
It's the greatest option, dude. Like, oh my god. But that's just neither here or there. I think at the end of the day, I think McCarthy's good enough to stabilize the franchise, but he's not gonna get you over the hump once you reach that point. It's just kind of it is what it is when it comes to Mike McCarthy, and Dak will probably just end up like with what I felt with Romo after a while. It's just like the guy that'll never really get over that hump and will end up being remembered as a very likable quarterback that just had to deal with the scrutiny of being a Cowboys quarterback.
it speaks to the general manager who should be telling the coach, hey, like this part isn't developed, or you know, this, you know, your O-line or your wide receiver coaches, there's something, because like a head coach, he's managing basically two people. the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. They're managing their spread of people. And then on the other side, they're managing their spread of people. Now, yes, you have coaches that are much more hands-on. Like Bill Belichick wanted to manage everything all the way down on the defensive side. And he didn't care about what the offense was doing. Clearly that we all saw for a couple of years there. But that's part of how football is run. So there's a lot of like, okay, well, don't you blame the head coach? I'm still not even sold that Dak is one of those great quarterbacks. Now Romo was fantastic, and Romo in anybody else's system probably would have had a Super Bowl.
It's just rough being a Cowboy in general.
Right? So yeah, it's all Jerry Jones. It's all this luster. You have all these expectations put on you. Just also by like you have the things of like it's America's team. I want the stadium has to be open so that God can watch his football team play.
Future contract situation is completely screwed because
Wonderful.
Dak has a huge contract, about $50 million a year now. Micah Parsons, the highest paid player in the league on defense, and then you have CeeDee Lamb, who needs an upcoming contract.
Also, Dallas is entering this offseason with $11 million over the cap.
So now we're going to go to my, as a Bengals fan, favorite game to talk about, which is the Squealers have just gotten their butts kicked in by the Bills.
No one's surprised.
Did anybody expect it otherwise? Let's
No.
be real.
Steelers fans did, apparently, based off of all the discussion I was seeing going on.
Yeah, but they're like Ryan. They're like Cowboys fans. They're insane. Like you can't listen to them.
Remember, Steeler fans gonna steal a fan. They're going to the Super Bowl, whatever.
They're delusional.
The Steelers lucked their way into the playoffs after a couple of teams just decided to crap the bed at the final week of the season.
I still don't want to talk about it as a Jags fan, but anyways.
But it's just like, what more can you really say? It is a very mid franchise that is coached by, in my opinion, probably one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL right now.
As someone who hates the Steelers more than life itself, Tomlin is a really good coach. He has just not been given the weapons. Now, I'm pretty sure he's not the GM, right?
No,
he's not.
Yeah. So, like, weird thing is that, like, I think, like, if you're looking for an actual good coach to put down into Dallas to make them kind of scary, I don't know what weird black magic it is or what magical stuff that he's pulling out of a hat, but he just always finds a way to get even like teams that have no business. Like, you give Mike McCarthy this team with this season for the
he'd be like 5-11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, you take Tomlin, throw him in Dallas. They were what, 10 and something?
They were 12-5 this year.
They were 12-5. Tomlin would take them at least to the second round.
This was a game that everybody expected to happen. Roster really needs an overhaul again.
That's not the coach. The coach isn't one making that. Like, like seriously, like all I can think of as Tomlin is that if because like that's all the Pittsburgh fans that I interact with constantly, both online and in person, they all want him gone. He leaves, and he's going to become the second coming of Andy Reid down in Kansas City, because Andy Reid was ran out of town after winning a Super Bowl. All right? Wins you a Super Bowl, you run him out of town, he goes down to Kansas City, and what does he do? I'm just going to win a few more down here in between cheeseburger breaks. Like, you run Tomlin out? Like, Tomlin's going somewhere and winning another Super Bowl or 3.
So the Steelers remind me, and I apologize for this, Jason, they remind me of those Atlanta Hawks teams in like the 2000s that were like a 7 or 8 seed, and they just got blown out in the playoffs. So they're good enough to make it, but they're not good enough to contend or tank. The Steelers need to just tank. The problem is Steelers fans are not used to losing. You know, the last time they had a bad season, and I'm not talking about like 5 or 6 wins. I mean an awful season. 1969. So you can do the math at home. I'm not going to do it for you. They have not been truly awful since 1969 when they went 1-13. So they are conditioned to win. And Steelers fans have it in their heads that they cannot tank. They need to tank, blow it up. Tomlin's not the problem. The problem is they have a roster that's stacking mid on top of mid on top of mid. Blow it up. Kenny Pickett is not the answer. He was only drafted for a storyline. You have
Pretty much the
tradable
only-
assets. You have T.J. Watt. You have Pickens. Send him out of town. You know, and
Najee's
just
regressed.
rebuild. Oh, I've never been a Najee fan. I've always
He
felt
was
he's been
good the first
overrated.
season, but like he's really gone back. Like it's the Steelers roster. Like it's again, Tomlin's held that team together with like duct tape and like cardboard, like hope.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Bills will have the easiest road to the AFC Championship game if they win.
I agree.
Next week. Because like you're playing like whatever the heck the Steelers were in the wild card round, then you're playing a very, very sussy Chiefs team with like one of the worst right receiver cores in the NFL as a whole for next week at home.
It really depends which Josh Allen shows up. The Josh Allen that throws 10
Yep.
interceptions and loses, or the
Yes.
Josh Allen that plays hero ball.
Josh Allen, like there's a formula to like his madness, and he reaches like this little weird chaos zone. Okay, and so if you're a defensive coordinator, what you're doing is you're trying to keep him past that little green line in the chaos zone. Like you make him feel that he has to do everything himself, whereas if he has to do most of the stuff himself, he's fine. He's freaking Superman. He is just dominating, jumping over people, running down, 56-yard carry, which it was. But if he feels that he has to do everything himself, that's when he becomes Pick City.
I'm not going to automatically pencil them in for the title game. I want to see how the other players outside of Josh Allen do, namely James Cook and Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I want to see the injury report from the Steelers game because they were hard on them. I don't know. I would disagree because like there's also like the Bills meme of that halfway through the middle of the game that's when everything implodes, and then it's like at the end it's like, oh yeah, hey, look, they won.
Oh yeah, there's that.
We got that. We had all the drama of a Bills game.
Yeah, that's why I said that this is what we expected it to be because they're going to play down to their competition at some point. Like that wasn't really a surprising thing. Like the only surprising thing would have been, okay, the Steelers made it a lot closer than what they needed to be, and for some reason they went to overtime or whatever. But
well, again,
that
that's Tomlin ball, right? Like it's like that immovable object meets like whatever, that's what the two is. It's the whole thing between the Bills smashing into the Steelers because the Steelers are always going to play up to their competition and the Bills are always going to play down to it, and it's going to be like, where are these two going to intersect?
I've seen the Steelers play down to a great many of competition, so I will say that they do play down sometimes. But the Bills, I think, do it harder. I think the Bills do it harder, especially the game this year against the Patriots. We've seen the Bills really play down at competition, but it remains to be seen.
That's what makes next week super interesting against the Chiefs.
Seawolf isn't here just to bust a nut, like just because it was so. Like we were all just going to cheer for the Rams just because Seawolf would not shut up.
Looking at history of trades and stuff like that, the Goff-Stafford trade is probably the best trade both sides have had. That trade is one of the most interesting trades because it was basically just 1-for-1. And it worked out beautifully. Detroit finally got their shit together. They don't have Matt Patricia as a fucking coach, so they're obviously doing better.
All right,
this is the prime example of a win-win trade in probably sports history, in all honesty.
Because my timeline was filled with I don't know how else to put it, Detroit sports propaganda.
Like they have an identity now, and they really haven't had that identity in the past 10 years, I would say.
I mean, they had an identity. Like you're the team that exists to lose on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and that's not an identity you want. So they changed, Dan Campbell.
I'm so glad Seawolf's not here for this.
Single-handedly changed that game, changed that narrative.
When you always thought they were the laughingstock. They were the ones that went 0-16, the ones that, were just terrible for years, that everyone thought was bad, and you were just like, man, I can't believe Matthew Stafford is actually good and decent in Detroit, but that team sucks.
Everybody's man, they're wasting Matthew Stafford's career in Detroit. It's just all the negative things that people were attaching to Detroit around that time.
They weren't
It's
wrong.
now gone.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you have
but it's
losers
now
coming out of
gone.
there like Matt Patricia, who now just lost another game. Fun, good job, Matt. But yeah.
but in at the end of the day, I think that like the way that Dan Campbell was able to re-energize and revive Jared Goff, especially, like I gotta give credit is due. They had every right to win that game, and I'm kind of glad that they did. Because like I love Stafford. Don't get me wrong, but like it was their time.
Oh boy. Okay. I will try and do this without being as biased as possible. So, I was hoping that the Lions would lose. And there are multiple reasons for that, and I won't say them on this podcast. But I was hoping the Lions would lose.
I wanted to see Seawolf in a Rams jersey, but that's just me.
Partially
anyways.
because they beat the Saints this season. But I will say this, records are always meant to be broken. And I am happy that Detroit won a playoff game and they are no longer the laughingstock of the league, and that is now the
Miami.
Dolphins.
And that's what we're going after. Because as a Bengals person who had the record of the 2 years ago, I've seen our other Cat Bros just go on. Like it makes me happy, but I'm going to cheer against them anyway, just because it's like, no, our number can't be the worst one.
Amazing to see how quickly that team was able to turn itself around from laughingstock to, oh my gosh, they have a chance to go to the NFC title game. It's since hiring Dan Campbell, let's just say that. So I'm not too upset over the booing of Stafford. Like I get it. He's on a different team, but I think it
Good
was
thing,
done
yeah.
more so, not so out of like malice and I
Yeah.
hate, but it's sports. Come on, you're naturally going to do that. So I think it's a great story.
The Rams versus Detroit is probably going to go down as one of the best games this year. I will say that.
Overall, what I had to think about the first bit of playoffs is what I kind of got to talk about here. Is first off, I feel bad for CeeDee Lamb. Talking about the Cowboys here, I feel bad for CeeDee Lamb because I feel like he's like wasted talent on being on the Cowboys like that, right? I don't know who else agrees with me on that, but like he puts up pretty good numbers. But as for the other games, I was shocked on these other games. Especially the Cowboys Packers game. As much as like I wanted to say like, oh, I think the Packers are gonna come on top like, easily on this game. I don't think anybody thought the Packers were winning that game.
I did, but I have that Stephen A. Smith gene that makes me hate the Cowboys. So now the script's been wild this season. Everything looks crazy. The Eagles have been on the collapse for a while. The Buccaneers have been on the upswing. Baker. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Buccaneers, and now they've won a playoff game with Baker Mayfield. I don't know what the hell is happening there. Someone knows.
I will say
Todd
this.
Bowles is saving his job.
No, I'll just keep it quick. The Eagles need to fire Nick Sirianni. There's no reason why he should be brought back. I think that the Eagles have this. They've lost their identity. They're gonna ban the tush push. So after that, I don't know what they have. And as far as the Bucks go, respectfully, since they got Tom Brady, the Bucks have become so. They so desperately wanted a rivalry with the Saints, and it never really materialized. And I figured that, once Brady retired, okay, the Bucks fans will go back to being, the losers that they are, and they won't show their face ever again. And now this happened.
wow.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't stand them, and I really
Yes.
wish they'd just go away. I'm tired of
Yeah.
seeing them win.
So Baker just had the best game in Bucks playoff history tonight with over 300 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. That the Browns made the worst decision and should have kept Baker. They got rid of him after an injury season, which he played injured and could have sat out.
Yeah.
He won him a playoff game.
Sean McVay saved Baker Mayfield. You remember he came in that one night and literally beat the Raiders while literally getting there that week.
Yeah, it was insane, and now he's come back and he's like been solid. Like Baker's always been like a solid quarterback. He got the Browns to a playoff win, and the Browns organization. I'm sorry, the Browns deserve to lose after you screw someone over like that. He got you the first playoff win in like 20 years.
Yeah,
And you just,
think
like,
about
throw
the
him under the bus.
weapons. that like Deshaun Watson's contract could have bought Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
Like think about that. A look ahead. Psylocke, what do you have for predictions?
Lions
I
are
got
playing
that.
the Ravens. The Chiefs are playing the Bills. The Bucks are at the Lions, and the Packers are at the 49ers.
I won't give scores. I'll just say who's going to win, who I think is
Yeah.
going to win.
Yeah.
But I, as much as I love the Texans and the story they're on, I have to give it to the Ravens. I think the Ravens are probably the team. Well, that's also down the line predicting, but I think they're the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Bills Chiefs. Hot take. I'm picking playoff Mahomes.
Mm.
I'm not counting him out just yet. Niners. No discussion there. Niners. And unfortunately, someone has to win Lions and Bucks. Lions will win it in a thriller. So,
All right.
wow. That's a hell of an NFC title game, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
All right, Lexi, what do you got?
The Lions have played really well. They've done super well. They're hosting another playoff game. They're on a
Another
high, and that's why they'll lose to the Bucks.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh,
All right.
spicy.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think the Bills finally get revenge. They've been talking about let's play the Chiefs at our house and
Yes.
we'll see what happens. I think the Bills finally beat the Chiefs in the playoffs and show and get revenge over the Chiefs.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
I think the magic of the rookie Stroud ends and the Ravens win that very easily. I think the Ravens D will shut down Stroud and he'll have his worst game of his career so far. I have the 49ers barely beating the Packers. I think the Packers are going to keep it close and it'll come down to a last second field goal for the 49ers to win. But I could very see the Packers winning that game.
Dingles, what do you got? Start from the bottom, work your way up.
Okay, so Sunday night we got the Chiefs and the Bills. With the Bills are favored by 2.5 at home. Give me the Bills. As Lexi said, this is Mahomes' first road game in the playoffs. All the last 15 were at home. I'm going with the Bills, of course. All right, because the last time Kansas City was
Agree.
in Buffalo, it was during the COVID year. There was no fans at that game. This is me going back to Buffalo in the playoffs Sunday night with fans. All
Yeah.
right, the fans are going to make hell to Mahomes. Then we're going to go to the Buccaneers Lions. Lions are favored by 6 at home. I would take the Lions right there because I think it's going to be the battle of defense on both sides of the ball. The question is, Jared Goff's got more experience than Baker Mayfield in the playoffs. And Aiden Hutchinson's going to wreck Baker Mayfield. Give me 2 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson on that game. And a Amon St. Brown touchdown also.
Also, I would like to point out the fact that like they're at like round 2 of the playoffs at Detroit, so that place is just going to be loud.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
is going to be hard to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you got for next?
Next is the Packers 49ers. Niners are favored by 10 points against the Packers. But the last time the Niners Packers played in the playoff was for the NFC title game, and the Niners just blow the Packers out in that game. And I can see it too, but I don't see the Niners covering that 10. Give me the Niners, but the Packers with the point. No. Then the last one, the Texans at the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 9.5 for this game. The main question is, what Lamar Jackson are we going to see against Houston at home? Lamar's last 4 playoff game combined, his QBR rating 63.8, and he's going to be the most pressured player this weekend. As in, can Lamar go over the hump? Can Lamar lead this team to the AFC Conference title game? Last time they were in this situation, you were the first overall seed. You're about to win probably another unanimous MVP. And what happened? You choke in the playoffs against Tennessee. Now here comes Houston with a red hot CJ Stroud and that offense alongside with Devin Singletary running up the game.
Yep.
Is going to be a running match between Gus Edwards and Devin Singletary. It all depends what front seven can stop the other team's run. But it's going to be airing it out with I'm going to go with the Ravens, with airing it out with Zay Jones and OBJ, because I don't see who's the other wide receiver for that the Texans have?
Nico Collins.
Yes, Nico Collins. Since Tank Dell went down, he's been shining bright. And he's going, I don't know, Nico Collins and the tight end they got from Dallas, Will Schwartz. It's going to be up. It's going to be also an offensive battle too. But give me the Ravens.
It's going to be back and forth. Like I think that is the game to watch.
All right.
So Bunt, what do you got?
All right. So first we got the Texans at the Ravens, right? So don't get me wrong, CJ Stroud, amazing quarterback coming in to the NFL like this. He's playing amazing. He's red hot. I like CJ Stroud. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna play bias here. I mean, like, even when he was playing against, when he was in college against Georgia, he was a good player. I like CJ Stroud, but that doesn't mean anything here. He's red hot, and all this, but I think that Lamar's gonna cook. I think that Lamar is actually, gonna cook more. And
Yeah, I have to agree. Like I think Lamar's gonna slaughter, but I think it's gonna be a much better game than what we're thinking.
oh yeah, don't get me wrong, it's gonna be a back and forth game, like you just said. It'll be a back and forth. I have very little vision of seeing it be a runaway game. But as for that game, I think Ravens still gonna come out on top. I think that after, being set out of the playoffs, being the first seed in past years, I genuinely think they're probably sick of it, first off, and they're just ready to win that game, playoff game, first off, and actually make the AFC championship. And next up we got the Packers and 49ers. Now, I think that'll be close, but I think that the Niners will start to pull away because we were talking about earlier how Dallas always has that freak show against Green Bay, and I think that's what Green Bay had against Dallas and that. So I don't think they'll have that same effect on the Niners. I think that the Niners will start pulling away in like the third quarter.
Interesting. Okay.
And then we got Bucks and Lions. Listen, I'm not gonna play bias here. I like Psylocke. I hate the Buccaneers because I am a Falcons fan, but I can't play bias. But I still do think that they'll lose this game in the end. I do feel like this one will be close. Because you're playing a Detroit team that hasn't won their title in 30 years. They're out for blood. They're out for blood. I'll give them that. And playing them at home is dangerous territory. The way they're playing, I feel like the Lions coming out on top on that one. And lastly, we got the Chiefs and Bills. This one is the game I've been contemplating on which team I think will win the most. Like, because Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, also like Psylocke said, is a little bit built different. I don't know. This one's kind of a toss-up. I think that the Bills will come out on top in the end. I ain't got much to say about it except it'll just be a close game.
Oh, I think it'll be the second best game to watch. But I think the Texans versus the Ravens is just going to be more exciting. All right, so Khan, go.
All right. I'll keep it short and sweet. Packers, 49ers. I think the 49ers are going to pull it out. I think the 49ers are going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. They're probably the best team in the NFC, bar maybe the Lions. I just think that they're the best, and I think that they're going to beat the Packers. I think Jordan Love is going to do fine. It'll be a fine game. It's just the 49ers are a better team. Moving on. Going to Tampa Bay, Detroit. I think Detroit wins this. Tampa Bay, I think the magic kind of wears off. I think Detroit has much more weapons, better defense. I think Tampa Bay has really been doing well with just basically playing with house money. They're doing well in a season they never thought they would do well in, and I think they're going to have their comeuppance there. I'll save my thoughts for Houston Buffalo for a second, but Kansas City or Houston Baltimore, but Kansas City Buffalo, I think Buffalo wins this. I think as much as Patrick Mahomes has that clutch gene, he's going to be playing away, and I think his receivers are going to let him down. We're going to see another horrible Kadarius Toney drop, or something's going to happen, and I think Buffalo is going to win. Do the Bills make it to the Super Bowl? I don't know. We'll see. But my hot take: Houston's going to beat Baltimore. Mark my words. DJ Stroud, the Stroud boys are going to come. The Stroud boys are going to stand up and stand by, and they're going to win. As much as I hate the fact that a division rival would win that, I think Houston's got it. I think the memes are too good. I think it'll be a good game, but I think Lamar might not just have that clutch gene. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if he beats. I think CJ Stroud's gonna take it out, and I think the Houston defense is gonna clamp down. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, Jason, what do you got?
I'm going to start off with the Texans and Ravens. I think it's going to be incredibly close to the point where I think it's going to go to overtime. And I feel like that at the end of that game, the final team to get that score will be Lamar and the Ravens. So I will have the Ravens go to the AFC Championship game. Then the next game, Packers, Niners. I think it's going to be a close game, but it might get a little bit out of control by the third or fourth quarter. And I think the Niners are going to go ahead and take that off, so I will check them off. The Lions are going to blow out the Buccaneers. The Lions are going to destroy the Buccaneers. Like the Bucs are going to play an actual playoff team in the divisional round, and the Lions are not going to show any mercy, and this is going to be a mollywop in Detroit. Now for the Chiefs and Bills game. We always keep forgetting that there's always some kind of controversy in the divisional round. And I think that controversy happens in this game. Some BS is going to happen, and the Chiefs just find their way to win in Buffalo to take on the Ravens. Those are my predictions.
Bills versus the Chiefs. I'm going with the Bills on this one. It's going to be close. It's going to be uncomfortably close. But I think that the Bills are going to end up pulling that one out. Ravens versus Texans. Oh, that's going to be a good game. That's going to be really freaking good. Like, to me, that is the. I don't care what you're doing. You're going to watch that game. Because if you enjoy good football, I think that's going to be good football. I think Lamar squeaks it out. And I think he squeaks it out by no more than 10 points. Now, 49ers versus Green Bay. It's so bad because I'm talking about teams that the Bengals beat. So I think Green Bay has a chance to beat the 49ers. It's going to be close. And I'm just going to have to go ahead and give it to Green Bay. Yeah. And then I've got what else is there? There's Detroit versus the Bucks, because the Bucks have hit their stride. I mean, as much as it pains me to say this, for Seawolf, I honestly think Lions are going to take this one.
We had to torture that one out of you.
Oh, it's torture. It is. But like at the same time, I mean, I've been there. But like, yeah. I mean, it's anyway. I think that covers all the games, right? Or did I miss one?
Mm-hmm. I think we all
Okay.
said our piece.
Fantastic. So who do you have in the Super Bowl? Start at the top. We'll work our way down. So me. I guess it's Bills versus Lions. Because I'm just going for like the poverty bowl. It's gonna be wonderful.
All right.
Yeah, Bunt. What do you got? Who do you have in the Super Bowl?
I have the Ravens. You know, I got the Ravens 49ers. I know they're both first seed, but I genuinely think that they're going to meet up.
Jason, who you got?
You're gonna hate me for saying this, but I'm going crazy. Ravens Lions. Let's go,
No,
bro.
I mean,
I'm
like,
going spicy with it, baby. Let's go.
wait. You said Ravens and
Ravens and Lions.
Okay.
We going crazy.
and then we got Jingles. Who you got?
Bills Lions.
you telling me to stay off the weed?
All right.
It's gonna be Texans 49ers.
Ooh.
CJ Stroud's gonna win it all. First
We are
rookie to
going
win.
crazy.
We are gonna. I'm hitting that weed. I'm hitting that blunt. I know what I'm
We're
doing.
going crazy.
No,
Fold.
don't hit Bunt. Don't hit
It has
Bunt.
appeared
Yeah,
to
don't hit me.
It has appeared to me in a dream.
I'm already a little lost as it is.
Lexi, what do you got? Who's gonna be in the Super Bowl?
We're gonna have a rematch of Super Bowl 55. Chiefs versus Bucks. Baker gets his first Super Bowl.
Gross,
Yo,
the Chiefs
you're
are
wild. You're wild.
These predictions are getting even more
We have some
gutsy.
spicy shit
Spicy.
going on here.
Why not?
Jeez,
Why?
man.
Don't blame her though, because if you think like teams, they'll literally just like perform kind of just like mid in the whole season, and then they'll just come in the playoffs and like, oh, I'm gonna destroy every team I play.
All right, Psylocke, what do you got?
All right, well, I'll be less controversial. I'm going to stick with chalk. It's going to be Ravens Niners. These are the two best teams in the NFL. I know everybody wants a Cinderella story, but you cannot convince me that the Ravens and the Niners are going to lose to whoever challenges them in the title game. And I do think Baltimore will win. We'll get that rematch in Baltimore. It'll be closer this time around, but Baltimore will win. Lamar Jackson, MVP and Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I'd be very upset if like Lamar doesn't get MVP. Like, we've
was-
discussed this previously because the whole thing with Lamar is that he's not just a quarterback. Like you get basically an extra run.
I will
play.
say, Psylocke, I'm disappointed you didn't say something even more batshit like the Saints are going to the Super Bowl on some weird technicality.
Oh, I wish.
Sorry, crazy take time. Go.
You know how Tom Brady had a quarterback who owned him in the Super Bowl? Eli Manning. Patrick Mahomes needs his Eli Manning.
He's got him.
Baker.
And he's beautiful.
Baker Mayfield.
It's not gonna be Baker.
Manning.
The Bucks are gonna get blown out.
Lexi's on something because if you remember the Browns Chiefs playoff game from 21, Baker was on par with Mayfield. I mean, with Mahomes, and the Browns almost won that game if they didn't lose the fumble in the end zone.
The playoffs aren't always about the best team who wins. The best team doesn't always win in the playoffs.
It is.
Yeah, it's about who cheats.
It's about who's hot. It's about who's hot and who's,
who gets the extra, who gets a fifth down. I'm totally not just being angry because I'm a Bengals fan.
It's in every sport. The teams that are hot win.
Well, no, Mahomes has one hell of a drug. Mahomes has his version of special ed Peyton. You know, like it's fine. It just happens to be Burrow. Unfortunately, they're in the same conference, so they'll never actually meet in a Super Bowl.
I mean, since we're given, hot takes, I got one for you
Oh,
that
give
you're
it to me.
probably not going to expect. Lexi, pay attention. The Washington Commanders, they're going to trade up for the number 1 pick, and
Yep.
they're going to take Bo Nix at number 1. Don't ask me
No,
why.
no.
Don't ask me why.
Don't put that juju on her. Don't
You
put
know
that
what,
juju
Psylocke?
on her.
It's going to happen.
Stop! Stop!
Hey,
It's
Psylocke?
going to happen. And
Dennis-
what's up?
Dennis Allen will sign a 10-year contract extension.
Oh, knowing the Saints, that'll actually happen. Knowing the Saints, that'll actually happen. I believe it. But
Oh
Bo
my
Nix will be Bo Nix will be taken at 1.
That's
you heard it here first.
insane.
So I don't think Caleb Williams is not going 1. And, okay, in a perfect world,
That's a hot take.
no, it's not. But here's why.
Yes, it is. Go.
Chicago is keeping Justin Fields. You know why? Eberflus got retained. There's no way they're about to roll off of Justin Fields. They're
And
either
they're
going to
interviewing Greg Roman today.
So they're either going to trade down and get more picks, or they're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. with the first overall pick. I'm telling you, there is no way they move off of Justin Fields. That would be insane.
No, they're
Insane.
not. I mean, especially considering. I mean, he went what? It was like they had a 7-9 season, which wasn't terrible. Like, and then went bad. He's not going to move off of that. I don't think they should move off of it. I think it would be a mistake if they did. But
Also, I don't trust Caleb Williams. Him and Drake May also. There's just something about those two that I'm like, they feel overrated, and I can't quite put my finger. Well, for
one's
me,
named after a rapper.
yeah. Well, for me, Drake May is. I've seen this whole song and dance before with ACC quarterbacks, especially UNC and Duke quarterbacks, to where, okay, it's all smoke and mirrors. You were the product of the wide receivers who were there. With Caleb Williams, his play this year was kind of very up and down, and that was not
Overhyped.
always. What's up?
Overhyped.
Well, yeah.
Well,
And-
hang on. If we're wait, hang on a second. Maryland fan sitting there criticizing ACC
Oh, I'm not in the ACC. We're not in the ACC anymore. We're in the Big
quarterbacks.
10.
No. But we're talking about NFL quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. hmm
So you got Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Who's your backup quarterback?
To Lamar Jackson. You mean Tyler Huntley?
Right behind him.
Right behind Tyler Huntley.
It's his backup quarterback in Louisville.
It's Malik Cunningham.
Oh.
I can't believe
That's
Randall
two-
Cunningham is still
so,
in the league.
That's 2 ACC quarterbacks that
Okay.
you just ignored because
Okay.
like you're talking shit about like the ACC and stuff. And like you guys can sit over there with like your bankrupt Under Armour contracts and stuff, but like
okay. Well,
Wait, are
at least
we-
our coach didn't
judging?
hire strippers, to boost team
lot
morale.
of this
All
is
right.
I'm gonna be so mad if Michigan gets keep their national title. I'm gonna be so mad.
Hey, same. We're on the same page there. We are on the same page.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to the Jersey Tales. That's a sports wrap.